Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. It has been quite some time since we have been here to maximize your Monday, and I figured if I'm gonna restart, have a new episode out, who better than to join me than Kasia, who is a regular contributor to the show. Always a pleasure to have you, Kasia. Thank you so much for taking some time to jump on here with me and talk. We're going to talk job seeking this week, so I'm happy that you're here to help. Just because you exude so much positivity, you have so much great stuff to offer people who are just trying to better themselves in general. So figured we should have you on to help people when they're trying to better themselves professionally.
Of course, and thank you, Matt. And job seeking is it can be super stressful, and we don't need to add fuel to the fire. We can make it light, we can make it fun. I'm excited to go into some strategies to keep it light, and we have a lot to cover today.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I mean, your first point you just said there is something that I say all the time. It's I feel like people go into job seeking and they think they're on this island and don't realize just how many resources they have, how many people are ready to, assist and support them, whether that's hiring managers, people that, coach, or people that are just in the search themselves. You really need to build that network of other job seekers so you can support each other along the way. So that's absolutely a great point, to stop adding unnecessary stress to yourself in an already stressful type of situation, which is the job market right now. Unfortunately, it's kind of hectic all over. So figure a good time for us to kind of sit down and have this conversation. And so, first point right off the bat is just you and I have already said it's a stressful time, especially if you're kind of in that unfortunate position where your role was eliminated. So you're not job seeking just out of curiosity or professional development, but you're in that space where you just kind of have to find something new. And what are some common things that you tell people? Because you do coaching, you try to help people, with positivity and energy. I'm sure you've worked with people who are coming to you for that advice when they're in that job searching stage. So what advice do you give them who are in that difficult process themselves? How they can prioritize their job search and still prioritize wellness as they're in part of that journey.
Great question, Matt. And you hit the nail on the head. Something is in the air right now. There's a lot of, I want to say, almost like instability, even with folks who are working and have jobs. So they're kind of in the bucket of potentially job seekers as well. So the conversations I've been having are, plentyfold. It seems like that desire for people to find authentic work and maybe work where they can express themselves a little more authentically or feel supported in more of who they are and what their true skill sets and desires and passions are. I feel like that's all really coming to light right now. I feel like that's a general trend I've started to see. And so oftentimes with this, if folks are it depends on the place that people are in when they're seeking, right? If
Mhm.
we're talking strictly job seekers and someone is currently not working for whatever reason, voluntary leave, maybe they were laid off, maybe they're in the midst of, a career pivot,
Yeah.
then one of the first things is to keep some kind of structure for yourself. It's easy if we think about how much time we spend in our day to day, like at work, if that gets taken away or if you leave that behind, there's a large gap to fill, and it's easy to fill it with something like Netflix or, hopefully more positive, habits or activities like going out for a walk or taking your fitness a little more seriously, right? But the crux of it is, keep some stability for yourself. Even if you're someone that doesn't necessarily thrive in stability in a period of change like that, having something to anchor you is super, super important because it's going to give you the ability to switch on into different flow states. Maybe it's like, okay, for the next hour, I'm going to be updating my resume. Maybe after that, it's messaging some contacts, right?
Mhm.
So that's the first piece is keep as much stability and structure in your day to day as you can. That should also reduce the pressure
Yeah.
to some degree, which is something that can feel really heavy, like a burden on people's shoulders sometimes. And it gives you that validation that you are moving in the right direction. I
Mhm.
always say you can't control the output. You can't control what job you're going to get and when, but you can control the input, which is how you're showing up, the activities that you're doing,
Yeah.
right? So that's one piece, structure, inputs. The next piece is to not forget about yourself in the meantime,
Mhm.
especially when a job search has been dragging on for some time. It's really easy for people to start panicking
Yeah.
because especially if they're qualified, especially if they're later in their career. I've seen it with some of my clients where, they wake up frantically and are immediately at the desk applying for new jobs that came out overnight.
Yeah.
While I understand the pressure and I understand in a little bit the desperation because we're talking livelihood here, right? While I understand that, you can't neglect yourself or
Mhm.
else you will continue to be neglected by
Yeah.
opportunities around you. A good example is, I've had some clients where they were in the job search for I think 4 or 5 months, long time. And one client in particular was applying for roles that were just so under like her experience.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are you doing? Like, you need to be looking director plus, not these kind of more even entry roles. And there was a state of fear and of not sure what's going to happen in the next little while, right?
Yeah.
And so when working with feminine energy, feminine energy feels good to do good.
Mhm.
So the importance of, as a woman or someone who identifies with feminine energy as the predominant way that they operate in the world,
Yeah.
the importance of taking care of yourself and of putting all of that on pause, like straight up take a couple days or a week away from that world.
Mhm.
No matter what's on the other side, you're gonna be fine. Like you have to trust that. But
Sure.
um take care of yourself and do the things that you've been neglecting. Make sure you're taking a shower every day. You're brushing your teeth. You're going out for a walk. Maybe give someone a call and make some dinner plans, even
Mhm.
if it's like at your house or someone else's house if you don't necessarily have the funds.
Yeah.
But do the things that will fill your own cup. If your cup is not full, other like you can't pour into other endeavors, into other people, into other experiences or things. And so it becomes especially heightened as a woman. Like you need to take care of yourself, and there's always something to put in front of you. But when you're in a sensitive position, like a job transition, you can't neglect yourself because the energy will reflect that.
Yeah.
And that's why things feel so far out of reach because you're not treating yourself with that respect that you need,
Definitely.
right?
Definitely.
Um, and then for the counterparts, I'll wrap up the point. For the counterparts with masculine energy does good to feel good. So even if you're a job seeker, you identify with that, you're a man. Um, it sounds easy. It's like, okay, go and do the things and apply and work on your resume. But it's also about things outside of work, right? Because the point I'm getting to is we need to remove our entire identity away from work or our
Yeah.
job title. Or I'm a VP at a technology company. Those are amazing achievements, but when you base your entire identity off of it, it makes the whole job seeking process a lot more stressful
Yeah.
because now you're looking at life so one-dimensionally. And
Mhm.
so for my men out there, like go out and build something. Are there errands, that you've been meaning to run and you just don't have the time? Make the time, prioritize getting, the rest of your world in order, all of these different areas, and then work will naturally start to fall into flow as well.
Definitely.
But men do good to feel good.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to change the next question a little bit just because we've kind of touched on, that you've already covered the urgency and how people can
Yes.
stress in that means. And want to go a little bit of a different direction because there are sometimes, it's best laid plans, right? And some people just get to that point where, as a necessity, they accept a job that maybe they weren't as excited about as they thought they may be, or it's just kind of, I need to work. This looks like an environment where I can be happy, let me give it a shot just so I'm, not continuing this search. So for someone in that situation where they may be, for lack of a better term, settled for the position that they are now in, how would you encourage them to find that positivity that you talk about in a situation that they weren't necessarily expecting? Obviously, they might have been laid off. They accepted this just to get back out there, just so they're, showing
Mm,
they're
I
willing to do what it takes, that type of thing. How can they go about, creating the best of that situation?
I love this question. And what comes to mind is, you know, every experience is a stepping stone.
Mhm.
No matter how unrelated a volunteer experience, a working experience, anything like that is or seems to us initially,
Yeah.
we can choose to give meaning to these moments,
Yeah.
right? Like, while I understand the fact that we feel like, oh, a lot of us need meaning in our work,
Hmm.
um, it's not always easy to spot at the surface level. And so there is an obligation to yourself that you have to create meaning in what you're doing. I
Hmm.
remember having a conversation actually with like a hiring manager, who's the husband of my friend, right?
Yeah.
And him and I were catching up, and we had this conversation where I was talking about my early days in my career where it was brutal. You're hammering the phones, you're cold calling CFOs, you get hung
Yeah.
up on people, you're interrupting people, like they're not giving you the time of day, and it's easy to take that personally.
Yeah.
But I was sharing with him what I did to get through that and to build resiliency, which is ultimately positivity and the ability to take life and run with it,
Hmm.
right? Even the crappy things that happen.
Yeah.
What I ended up doing was I remember telling him like the reason that I joined this company was because growing up, I didn't have dinner with my family in the afternoons. My parents worked afternoons into evenings.
Hmm.
So, and then I found out that this company can help get CFOs on time to have dinner with their families. And to me, that was such a personal connection. And I was like, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is why I'm interrupting a CFO in the middle of the day, because, if he's struggling with this, or if this is an area of his life that he could improve, it could be improved with what our company is offering. And
Yeah.
so I was able to create meaning in an otherwise very bland and honestly job that beats you down,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
But you go a little bit deeper. You go into the mission of the company. You go a little bit deeper from there. What are the people around you excited by, right? So I'm
Mhm.
kind of answering two questions at once, like for the people who are in a position that they don't necessarily, they didn't they didn't sign up for this, quote
Right.
unquote. It's like, where can you still find some aspect of the experience to celebrate?
Hmm.
You don't have to be like rolling, out of bed, super excited, but where can you find some meaning in what you're doing, no matter how small,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Um, that's a really big piece, and I think if people reflect on that, then they can change the experience they're having day to day in
Mhm.
the workplace. And of course, at the same time, start preparing an exit plan,
Yeah.
right? Knowing that it's not going to take 1 month, most likely, it's going to take a couple of months. You can start now and lean on your existing connections and your contacts, whether that's through LinkedIn, whether that's through the people you went to school with, whether that's to other people who are doing similar things to you,
Mhm.
who you might have gone to high school with like 20 years ago. Like
Right.
the world is not that big. As much as we may feel sometimes that it's so large, we're all connected by like seven people, right, in the entire world. And uh, so just lead on that a little bit
Hmm.
because there's a way out, and you can choose to make the experience lighter and, more exciting for yourself, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So this next question is kind of almost a throwback to the first episode you were ever on with me, where we discussed, you were experiencing burnout in your work, and that, you know,
Mhm.
made you do some self-reflection, figure out what was next for you, what you wanted to do, how you wanted to take your career. And I think a lot of people don't always realize that you can experience burnout in the job search too, just because there is that level of urgency, right? And you talked about it in the first point that we made, that you need to take time for yourself, but sometimes you might not realize you're kind of in that phase where you're just burnout from just looking for something new. So what were some of the ways that you kind of had yourself reflect on where you were in the workplace, and realize that you needed to make a change? How can people in the job search do something similar so they can kind of reassess what they're doing and have a better path forward?
Right. What a good question. One of the first things that comes to mind is self-awareness without change or action is
Mhm.
self-sabotage.
Yeah.
So if you think about what that means, like you can be the most self-aware person, you can be asking yourself these deeper questions.
Yeah.
But if something in your life is not changing, if you're not taking action on some of those reflections and implementing it, you are choosing to stay in the same position,
Yeah.
right? I know that's not always applicable, especially when circumstances are beyond our control, but and there's always the importance of asking the deeper questions. Like, if there's one thing that I can tell everyone, it's like you have to go deeper and ask the deeper questions of yourself,
Yeah.
willing to be honest, be willing to be super transparent with yourself so that you can choose differently, so
Hmm.
that you can end up in a different spot.
Right.
And so, that's the one piece on the mental level, right? Is like, you start to ask the deeper questions and then you get the answers. And so what do you do with the answers?
Hmm.
Sometimes people can't even get to that point, but what will happen is in order to get there, the body will tell you. Like for me, my body was telling me that I was on overdrive, that I had no capacity
Hmm.
to handle life, let alone work, a
Right.
quota bearing role.
Right.
Uh, and so, the body told me I was breaking out in adult acne. I was breaking out in hives all over my body, like out of stress. It was a stress response. And there came a point, I think, after like a month of it where I was like, I don't think this is normal, and
Right.
maybe I should sit and reflect a little more. And that's how I kind of started to realize I had to do the deeper work, right? And it wasn't just about sales training, and it wasn't just about like skills training because it wasn't a skills gap.
Yeah.
Um, so those are some really critical pieces. It's like the awareness of of your physical self, of your mental self. Like, what are the thoughts that are running through your mind on a day to day?
Hmm.
An experience that I've done recently is, you carry a journal with you for an entire day and you try to catch as many of those thoughts that you have. That we have 40,000 thoughts a day. They're automatic majority of the time. What
Sure.
are the thoughts that are coming through for you?
Hmm.
And you just, whether you agree or whether you don't like them or whatever, you just get it all out on paper in this journal, and you have a day's worth of thoughts to reflect on. And if your thoughts aren't serving you, your desired state is going to be so far away. It's going to be harder to get there, because at the end of the day, what you believe and what you think is what you repeat and is what comes out in your actions. All thought becomes action
Yeah.
is a, hermetic saying that I live by. And so it doesn't mean every single thing you think is going to happen, but the
Right.
repeated thoughts that you have are what create your life
Yeah.
and the circumstances that you're in. So where are you working against yourself?
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Now, when we've talked before about, people trying to find their self-discovery and achieve inner peace and things like that, when you say that, obviously the first thing a lot of people think is just meditation, and that's, can certainly help, but that's just one thing that you can do to find that self-reflection stage and achieve inner peace. So, for other people that come to you and ask for ways that they can try to do that, what are some other means that they can do beyond just guided meditation to seek answers inside and find clarity?
Mm, what a good question. Of course, meditation is something I'll always say because it's free, it's available, it's easy to do. Although it's easy to do, it's hard to get there. It's hard to want to meditate.
Hmm.
One thing that you can do is just force yourself to do it every day, schedule your meditation appointments, and after around a week, you should start to really look forward to it because you get put in a different state, right? And so your brain waves slow and you can think a little bit more clearly.
Yeah.
So that's just always my pitch for meditation. Then, of course, there's things like energy healing and energy work that you can have actually done to you. So things like Reiki, life activation is something I offer, and people all over the world in the US offer as well.
Mhm.
And these are really, alignment sessions,
Yeah.
things that help clear out the energy that's stagnant, that is still affecting you. I know we only see our physical body, but there's more here, right?
Mhm.
So taking care of all these different layers of you is something that you can do through the process of having an expert or someone trained in it to work on you.
Yeah.
And one thing that people often don't think about is what did you like to do as a child? What did you enjoy doing as a kid and do more of that?
Yeah.
We as adults do not schedule time for joy. We
Hmm.
don't schedule time for excitement.
Yeah.
And then we are surprised that, we don't recognize ourselves and the days are passing so quickly. It's like, well, where are you connected to, your deepest self, like your inner child and these experiences that lit you up as a kid? Like
Yeah.
super important to schedule some time or at least have some awareness. Like I'll never forget I was in an Uber one time and the driver was telling me like, yeah, like I mean, life is just so boring like and I'm stressed out and all these things. I don't have anything to look forward to. And I
Hmm.
asked him, I was like, what did you like to do as a kid? And he was like, I love to like rollerblade. I would always be out rollerblading. I was like, do you have a pair of rollerblades as an adult? He's like, honestly, like maybe somewhere in the garage. I was like, you need to spend some time this weekend. Not telling you what to do, but like find those rollerblades. If not, go out, buy them, and just spend an hour doing that. And I bet that it's something he's probably integrated now into his
Yeah.
routine because it just brings you back to this like innocent state of enjoying life. And oftentimes people can get into flow through that. And then that's when they have really great ideas, or oh, this is how I can frame my experience. It can come through in a different way. It's usually when we're not so attached to the outcome that
Right.
our great ideas come to us.
Yeah.
So do love doing as a kid.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, throughout this conversation we've been having, we've been talking about, how you can focus on yourself and, find out what your needs are. And right now, it's a little tougher for some people because if they're in the job seeking market, the holidays are approaching. I know you guys already had Thanksgiving. It's coming up here in the U.S. The December holidays are coming up, New Year's. So, this is a time where a lot of people struggle to really put themselves first, especially if they have families that are relying upon them while they're in their job searching phase as well. So, for people that you work with, that you coach, how do you try to have them find ways that they can continue to put themselves, even if it's not first all the time, they want to focus on their children or whoever might be relying on them. How can they still prioritize their own, inner well-being during these stressful times? What are some things that they can try to train themselves to stop thinking about others and think about themselves on occasion too?
What an important piece that you're bringing up because, and you know, I feel like I'm pretty qualified for this answer because I am that person in my family who people come to because I can understand all the different perspectives, right? And so I often get that, I don't want to say emotional burden, but sometimes, when there's a lot of stuff that's happening, it's like people are coming to me. And so the first thing is to understand your boundaries, energetic, verbal, like any of this. Like if someone is coming to you, do you have the capacity and the desire to be there for them at that time?
Yeah.
Right. And if not, learning how to say no politely, and saying no doesn't mean never and like get out of my face. It means no, not right now. I need to prioritize myself.
Yeah.
And so, if I think about, somebody who's kind of has the challenge of multiple people in their family, direct family, relying on them to make all the decisions and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Maybe it's like understanding the types of decisions that you do want to make and the ones that you're wanting to help others make for themselves.
Yeah.
An example is like once in a while my mom will come to me and she'll ask like, "Oh, how should I, approach this financial thing?" And I'm like, this is a boundary for me. I don't get involved in your financial matters.
Right.
Um, these are some points to consider. Have you considered this? Why are you set on doing it this way? And I'll engage in a conversation that's more centered around helping someone get to the point because I don't want the responsibility of someone coming to me and saying like you said I should do this decision. So and I mean that's a lot of what a coach does too. It's helping other people get to their own conclusions,
Right.
which I think is really smart for most people to kind of adopt, especially in more sensitive matters, right? So learning to set those more energetic boundaries, also knowing when your cup's not full and when you have to prioritize your own cup. Maybe you put your phone on do not disturb and you avoid any phone calls if that's available to you. Maybe, your partner's taking the kids out for a day while you're able to rest at home and kind of do the things that you need to do.
Mhm.
Um, that way you're able to give and it's not coming from a sense of I have nothing left to give,
Right.
right? And then another point is redefining giving, right? And so, um, again, I'm just talking about it from the sense of with other people are going to be involved. It's going to be, a lot of asks are going to come up, and we want to prioritize ourselves as a job seeker. Like redefine what you can give to other people,
Mhm.
because oftentimes the most valuable thing you can give someone is your full attention, your, authentic self,
Right.
not just time or labor or a listening ear. Like those are valuable in their own way, but I don't know, with greater awareness, you start to develop deeper understandings of even like your personal and interpersonal relationships, right? So, if you do give, like just being conscious of it, being like, I'm so happy to help you, you have my full attention. And then again, so maybe it's like establishing a schedule for yourself. It's like, you know, Monday to Friday when I'm in my job search mode, 9 to 5, like I'm prioritizing myself and the job search and maybe making a really nice lunch for myself so that I have the energy to keep going through the day. And I've got an hour every evening to dedicate to, family or friends and again, that's not always universally applicable, but it goes back to having the structure and the routine.
Yeah.
That's going to ground you. It's going to give you the guidelines of
Mhm.
how to best serve yourself
Yeah.
over a very stressful period as it's um uh events and holidays back to back, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Kasia, before I let you go, I always like to give you the chance to kind of promote what you have going on. Where can people find
Mm.
you? How can they connect with you? And utilize the services that you provide. So, absolutely want to give you the time to kind of let people know how they can get in contact and kind of speak more about some of the things that we've touched on in this episode.
Thank you so much, Matt. It's always a pleasure to come on and share some insight and share some perspective. My goal is always that people are thinking a little bit differently at the end of either listening to a talk or hearing, having a conversation with me.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm promoting right now is my Energetic Edge newsletter. So I have just started a newsletter. The first edition is coming out actually tomorrow, Saturday. Well, before this is sent, but on the 1st of November. And I'll be sending them out monthly on the 1st of every month moving forward. It's not going to be anything too heavy, too crazy, but a really good opportunity for anyone who's looking to get a bit of a higher perspective on their why, or, if they're in the midst of a job transition, like there could be questions in there that, help you think a little bit differently about your approach,
Mhm.
right? In addition to this episode. And my goal is to get people aware of the energy that they're using and showing up with at work, because the way we show up and how we do one thing is how we do everything, right? So we really want to make sure that we're caring for ourselves, we're giving ourselves the best opportunity to show up in the ways that matter, in ways that stand out for other people. These are skills. These
Yeah.
are skills. It's not necessarily something someone is inherently born with.
Mhm.
Charisma and, the ability to communicate and storytell, these are worked on. And personally, in my experience, I feel like once I started clearing out a lot of the energy that wasn't serving me and became a lot more aware of all of this, and not only how to work with my energy, but how to maximize it, all of these pieces started to come together a little bit easier, right? Almost like it's a natural state. And
Right.
so if you're interested in hearing more perspectives and thoughts, please join the Energetic Edge. It is on my LinkedIn profile. It's highlighted as one of the highlights,
Okay.
pretty far up on the on the profile
Okay. Perfect.
section. Yeah.
Well, Kasia, thank you again for being here. If you're listening, if you're watching, you can rest easy knowing that in 2026 there will be more of these episodes with Kasia on here with us. So it's always a pleasure to have you on. I appreciate you coming on to share some of the things that you work on and how people can help themselves while helping others. So if you've listened, if you've watched, appreciate you taking the time. And we will see you again. I won't say next week, but very soon. We'll